Well, that's what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
At its best, I think that's what it is. It gives people the tools to understand advertising, and that was, Andrew and John's original, raison d'etre for the show, which was, give people the tools to understand advertising in the way that Frontline gave people the tools to understand current affairs shows. Unfortunately, I think a little like Frontline, often having the tools isn't enough, right? Frontline didn't stop current affairs shows being like that, and Gruen hasn't stopped advertising doing the worst things that advertising does. And on our very best day, we point them out and perhaps give people a little more information about, how they're being manipulated. But we are a very small fish in a big pond when it comes to fighting that battle. And sometimes, there would be a great desire to be more strident about my criticism of advertising, because I do have broader societal criticisms of advertising. But we think that the best way to do it is to do a show where, it's through, having the experts on to speak to this themselves. And, you can be critical up to a point of advertising in that regard. The show has a naturally critical perspective. It starts pretty cynically in our first meeting, but because by the time it broadens out to the show, we've realised we get more insights, with a bit more honey than we do often with, if you present someone with you're shit and this is shit, defend it, all you get is a defence, a wall. Yeah. Whereas if you can...
cognitive dissonance will hit straight away.
If you can get someone to explain a bit of how it works or why it works and how we pick things apart, our hope is that along that journey, they actually reveal more. Through offering some kindness and some fun, you get more of a... But I don't know. And I often am haunted by that thought of if somebody, I used to have a joke about it, but I was like, if somebody would come up to me and say, I'm in advertising and marketing because I love Gruen, and I was like, well, you have missed the point of that show. That's like watching Breaking Bad and, deciding to make meth. It's not really what I was going for, but I think there probably is those people. There's some people who love Gruen because they're in advertising and marketing and love advertising and marketing. I don't. Yeah. And it's often confusing for people when they ask me to do something outside. In fact, it had happened just today. Burger King have just done a new campaign and a whole bunch of radio stations wanted me to come on and talk about this campaign. I was like, I do Gruen, but I am not interested in advertising, and there are 8 months of the year where I try to avoid advertising as much as I can. I think it has a corrosive effect on our society. I think most of the major issues the things we've talked about journalism and politics and the climate, a lot of them at the end of the day come down to advertising. The climate is because of our massive consumerist focus. We can't ever fully treat what's happening with climate change until we treat the idea that we live in a society where we're constantly told to buy new things and throw away old things, and that you need something new and that constantly you need to grow. That is what's led us to this point right now where we are in this ecological, climate disaster. Our politics have been influenced by advertising because, in America, to run these big, campaigns, they need billions of dollars, which means to run advertising, right? So that has corrupted the system over there. They elected the biggest brand in the world, like the guy who puts his name on his buildings, Trump. This is a result of advertising and marketing. What has happened in world politics, the fact that we don't have proper politics anymore, we have market-tested slogans and ideas. This is all because of advertising and marketing, and journalism, of course, has been ultimately corrupted by advertising and marketing because the mining companies and fossil fuel companies and all this, they are the people who run the ads in the media and the reason that the media can't cover these stories properly. So at the very heart of it, most of the problems that we have in our society can be traced back to advertising and marketing. So sometimes when I'm on that show and making fun of an ad, I'm like, I'm doing nowhere near enough. But at the same time, I'm about the only person doing anything. So I'm going to cut myself a little break on that.
It's so funny you said that because George Carlin used to have this quote about how advertising is the very center or gravity of bullshit. It's the where politics, business, and a bunch of other things meet, and it's easily one of his funniest bits.
It's where advertising is where fake news started, right? Because that's where fake news started. The idea that this thing would cure your baldness or get rid of your acne, or, was at this, we had this, Institute of Scienceology that, the Pons Institute where people were, that's fake news. And that language of fake news came to us from advertising in the first place and then crossed over into the broader media and is the thing that is ruining discourse in our modern day society. It all eventually comes back to advertising and brands and big corporations who are controlling messages around how we live in our society, right? It all starts with advertising. So have I done enough on Gruen over the years to highlight that? I don't know, maybe not. I'm often haunted by the idea that we don't do enough to pick it apart, but we do try our best.